Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Another blast of cold air is putting the East Coast on ice with more record-shattering snow and winter storm warnings. On top of that, the season's first major storm to hit large parts of the South is headed up the winter-weary eastern seaboard. Dale Hurd has the story.
And now it's the South's turn. After weeks of snow in the Northeast, a mid-February storm blasted through the South and the Mid-Atlantic. Until now, the South had been largely spared from the worst of this ferocious winter, but no more. As many as 90 million Americans in 20 states affected. A dangerous mix of sleet and freezing rain across the South and Mid-Atlantic made roads extremely treacherous and knocked out power to thousands. Residents across the region stocked up at supermarkets.
It's a madhouse.
In Philadelphia, Arctic temperatures made firefighting even more dangerous as buildings risked collapse from the weight of frozen water. That's a growing concern of home and business owners across New England. Buildings are having to be evacuated because of the weight of snow and the threat of roof collapse.
Complete panic. Everyone's just freaking out.
Beams started to collapse and split and fall into the attic.
The roof of this Massachusetts Lowe's hardware store collapsed.
They aren't capable of holding this type of weight, obviously, which is why they're caving in. So, I mean, that's what we got to worry about. That's what we're up against.
In New York City, the coldest February day in nearly 3 decades.
I figure it's cold when your eyeballs ache. That's cold.
Even one of the wonders of the world, Niagara Falls, was a frozen wonderland. The price of admission, enduring a temperature of 13 below zero.
Well, it's beautiful. It's worth braving the cold.
And in long-suffering Boston, no relief, with the mercury at 3 below zero.
Maybe if you're going to visit Boston, come in June, not February.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Operation Blessing is extending a hand to those in need during this winter storm. Along with the city of Norfolk, Virginia, Operation Blessing's team served hot meals at an area high school and created a warming station. That station provides a warm and safe place for people to come in off the streets and to spend the day. Operation Blessing is also helping vulnerable populations to dig out of the snow. To learn more about how Operation Blessing works and what it's doing and how you can help, simply log on to ob.org. The White House is vowing to appeal a federal judge's ruling that blocks President Obama's executive action on immigration. A U.S. district judge issued the temporary order to allow time for a coalition of 26 states to sue the administration. The states are seeking to permanently stop the president's orders that could grant relief from deportation to as many as 5 million undocumented immigrants. Congressional Republicans are seeking to block the immigration policy by cutting the Homeland Security Department's budget for the program. Ukrainian government troops and rebels supported by Russia have failed to meet the deadline to start pulling back their heavy weapons from the front lines. Last week's ceasefire agreement called for that pullback to begin on Tuesday, but now both sides say they'll only begin the pullout after the other party does. One rebel leader told a reporter that separatists plan to discuss the withdrawal today with representatives of Ukraine, Russia, and the group monitoring the ceasefire. The Nigerian Islamic terrorist group Boko Haram has issued a new threat, vowing to carry out suicide bombings against Niger and Chad for sending troops to battle them. Boko Haram has been terrorizing Nigeria's neighbors for weeks. That's why leaders from countries in the region gathered in Cameroon Monday to finalize war plans against Boko Haram. As they were meeting, Boko Haram attacked a Cameroonian military base on Nigeria's border, killing at least 5 soldiers. Boko Haram has fought a 5-year jihad against Nigeria's government, leaving 10,000 people dead last year alone. Governor Mike Huckabee says the U.S. is being naive when it comes to dealing with Iran. Huckabee is a possible contender for the Republican presidential nomination, a frequent visitor to Israel as well. On a recent visit, he compared Iran to a rattlesnake that can't be tamed. President Obama and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are at odds over international talks with Iran on curbing the Islamic regime's nuclear program. Iran has repeatedly threatened to wipe Israel off the map. Huckabee told CBN News the U.S. should take Iran's threat seriously.
Whatever happens to Israel is the warm-up act for what's intended for the United States. I mean, the Iranians are the ones who said, Israel is the little Satan, but America is the big Satan. How do we not see that? How do we not understand that the ultimate target is not Israel? If Iran were able to do what they've threatened to do, wipe Israel off the face of the map, is there anybody so naive as to say that they would then say, oh, well, there we are, we're done, we're finished, that's all we wanted to do? Well, of course not, because they've even stated as much.
Huckabee said Iran has never been trustworthy, so why should the U.S. start trusting it now? Attacks against Christians in Iran are just as bad as ever, but in the midst of the persecution, the church there is growing. Gary Lane brings us this exclusive look at a secret meeting of new believers from Iran.
This is a rare view that few outsiders witness. A secret meeting of Iranian Christians in a neighboring country not far from the border. These brand new followers of Christ receive Bible teaching and participate in their very first communion.
Thank you for the blood of Jesus.
After a few songs and prayers, several are baptized.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Then it's back for more late-night Bible study and training before returning to Iran. For the first time, these Christians learn how to look up and memorize Scripture. They're Kurds, former Muslims who converted to Christianity. If their identities in this location is revealed to secret police, Iranian agents would come and arrest them. Some may even be killed for being apostates. This former Muslim, we will call Daoud, knows the dangers all too well. Before he became a Christian, Iranian police caught him eating a sandwich instead of fasting during the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. That violated Sharia law, and a judge ordered him to receive 70 lashes, punishment similar to that imposed by the Taliban.
I was tied down. A mullah held the Quran in his hand and recited a verse, and then a soldier beat my back with a cable. It made me feel deep hatred against Islam and the Islamic Republic of Iran. All I did was grab a sandwich and eat it. Why is that a sin?
Later, Daoud met some Christians on the internet who introduced him to Christ. He embraced Christianity after witnessing miracles of healing and deliverance. Daoud keeps his newfound faith secret, while quietly and cautiously sharing Christ with others in his city.
Right now, it is really scary because if the government knows about it, I'm pretty sure they will execute me.
Another former Muslim turned Christian, Reza, says he shares his faith because he wants Iranians to live in the light. While President Rouhani promises societal reforms, Reza says an aggressive government crackdown against Christians continues.
Iranian agents come and arrest us, saying that we are spies for Western countries. They say, because of that, you are a traitor to your country and should be executed.
In fact, few of the 40 or so known Christians imprisoned in Iran have been charged as apostates or for spreading the gospel. The official charge is usually espionage or undermining national security. That's the charge against Iranian-American pastor Saeed Abedini, still serving an 8-year prison sentence.
Saeed is well known because he's an American, and we certainly need to pray for him and his situation and his family. But there are many others, like Farshid.
Security police arrested 35-year-old Iranian Christian Farshid Fatih during a Christmas raid against house churches in 2010. He is serving 6 years in Iran's infamous Evin prison. David Yegnazar of Elam Ministries says a prison guard recently broke Farshid's foot during a mass inmate assault. The foot went untreated for 3 days.
But Farshid wrote a very beautiful letter saying that it was an incredible moment for him because he was in this pain over the Easter weekend, and it gave him a very different view of the whole Easter story. And finally having some relief on the Sunday morning was great.
He went on to say, "We forgive them for all they have done, because we are followers of the one who says, 'Father, please forgive them, because they don't know what they're doing.'" Yegnazar says the Iranian church continues to grow in Iran, despite or perhaps because of the inhumane treatment of prisoners like Farshid and Saeed.
Their courage means that the church continues to grow. So it's really, although it's a story of suffering, there's also a story of growth in the church in Iran.
Iran has one of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world. Evangelist Reza says more and more Iranians tell him They've grown tired of the oppressive policies of the Ayatollahs.
People feel a hunger and a thirst to know the truth. When I talk to them about Christ and tell them how God loves us, they become so excited and they just keep smiling.
So what role can the U.S. government play to help protect Reza and other Christians inside Iran?
It would be important for politicians all around the world to put the pressure on Iran, not just for Christian freedom, but for the freedom of many inside the country.
Evangelist Reza asks for prayer.
Pray that God will give us strength and power in our faith, because Christian faith in Iran is not easy. It is difficult, dangerous, and risky. And pray for salvation to come, that all Iranians will be saved.
With Iranian followers of Christ in the Middle East, Gary Lane, CBN News.
Coming up, a night to shine. See how a Heisman Trophy winner is helping children living with special needs go to the prom. The Tim Tebow Foundation marked its 5th year anniversary with an event for children with special needs. Angela Zatopek brings us this look at Tebow's Valentine gift to 7,000 children around the country.
One night, one prom, but happening in 50 different cities nationwide in 2 different countries, all at the same time. The Tim Tebow Foundation celebrates its 5-year anniversary by honoring kids with special needs with its Night to Shine. The foundation's mission is to bring faith, hope, and love to those in need. And it did just that with the prom happening nationwide. Starting with a red carpet entrance, the children were greeted by their own personal host for the evening.
Well, for tonight, the goal is to just celebrate these children, to create an atmosphere where they feel accepted and loved and just celebrated.
One of the prom locations was at Jill's house, a facility in McLean, Virginia, for lavishing love on children with special needs while giving their parents a much-needed break.
The Tim Tebow Foundation, their desire is to celebrate individuals with special needs and to give back, and obviously that's what we do, and so it was a win-win.
Getting a VIP treatment, the children received flowers, hair and makeup, and even a shoe shine.
You look sharp!
Some of the children from Jill's house returned just for this special night, including Anna.
Just the attention that she gets here, it's really awesome. Just individualized, personalized attention, and she's not wondering if she's going to be competing with a sibling to get attention. Someone's just here to talk to her and to work with her.
After learning of her excitement for the prom, a group of nurses got together to create this princess dress just for her to wear.
I feel like Elsa Queen.
Oh, Elsa?
Yeah.
From Frozen?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about your outfit.
Well, I have cape on me. Missy made this for me. She worked so hard, my cape. It took her 5 minutes to do it.
And you can't have a prom without a crowning moment, so each child was crowned as prom queen or king.
So many of the families say that the world feels like a place where their children don't fit. And so tonight it's all about them being able to bring their kids here and having them fit in for exactly who they are and to celebrate who they are.
Now it's time to get funky. To the right now.
The foundation believes that everyone should experience a prom where they feel loved and welcomed, which has definitely happened here tonight at Jill's house. I'm Angela Zatopek, CBN News, Washington.
Up next, a rarity in Hollywood, a movie producer slash preacher. Filmmaker Devon Franklin is ready for his close-up after this.
Hi everybody, I'm Lori Johnson, health reporter for CBN News, talking about stress. You know, stress is a killer, and the more researchers look into exactly what stress does to our bodies, the more they realize it's even deadlier than they previously thought. Stress comes from experiencing emotions like worry, anger, even loneliness, which we all experience from time to time. But the good news is there are lots of great ways to manage your stress. And I talk about those in my blog on cbnnews.com. He's the filmmaker behind the hit movies like Karate Kid, Heaven is for Real, and Annie.
But what people may not know is Devon Franklin's passion for bringing these inspiring stories to the big screen actually comes from the pages of his own life. I sat down with Franklin to hear his remarkable tale of triumph over tragedy. Here in Hollywood, Devon Franklin isn't your typical film executive. This behind-the-scenes movie maker graces magazine covers. He's married to actress Megan Good, and he's a minister.
When you turn the page to the book of Joshua, God says Moses is dead. He's not coming back, but you guys have to get up, stop mourning, and go into the land that's promised to you.
You actually started preaching when you were 15. Some would say, what's a preacher doing in Hollywood?
And I would say, what's a preacher not doing in Hollywood? You know, I mean, you have to. The Bible consistently, God consistently puts his people in perceived difficult environments, perceived dark environments, and perceived challenging environments. Because what better way for him to get the glory than for his people to succeed in environments where people think it's not possible?
Succeeding against the odds is a familiar script.
Don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something.
For the man who helped to make The Pursuit of Happiness, Heaven is for Real, and Annie. Devon's story begins in San Francisco, where he and brothers Donald and David grew up, the children of hardworking childhood sweethearts.
My father took a job at UPS, was making his way up the corporate ladder. And all the while, we had what people would perceive as American dream. But then, of course, with any, great story, conflict comes. And one of the greatest conflicts was my father was an alcoholic. And as part of trying to keep up socially with, his peers and counterparts at UPS, he started drinking.
That derailed not only Dad's dreams, but Devon's childhood as well.
It went from, a few nights not coming home, to weeks not coming home, to not being able to hold down the job, to losing the house, to losing everything. And we had to, move out of the home and move in with my grandparents, they had to sleep in the motorhome at night because there wasn't enough room in the house.
The burden of holding the family together fell on his mom.
It was very traumatic, but even through all this, I never looked at him as less than a man, as less than my father. I just recognized that, he was going through something and had a disease that, was bigger than him. And my mother never spoke poorly about him.
Things appeared to be changing for the boys and their father when Devon turned 9.
He got his life back together. He got back into church, and he had had a heart attack. He was in the hospital. He had gotten off alcohol, he had gotten off cigarettes, and we went to go visit him. And he was saying, hey, when I get out of here, I'm coming back, we're gonna get this family back together. And we were like, great. And then the very next day, we got that call, right after school, that he had had another massive heart attack in the hospital, and they couldn't revive him. We go and, we see him in the morgue, and, my mom says, kiss your dad goodbye. And so that moment of like, you can't quite process what's happening, because as a kid, you're like, where does God in all of this? And what am I supposed to think and feel?
He turned to the church and to movies for comfort from the pain, seeing films like The Color Purple, Rocky, and Back to the Future.
I think that moment, that tragedy really helped plant the seeds for me for what I do. In movies like Annie, where you see a young kid who's trying to find their way, I deeply connect to stories like that because I understand it and I had to live it. And it really was, as an adolescent, the church, entertainment, and school that really gave me my outlets to help save my life.
Devon mapped out a plan to become a Hollywood film executive by age 30. It worked, as he became one of the youngest vice presidents at Sony Pictures and worked with some of the biggest names in the business. In a unique way, your dad sort of inspired and motivated you.
My dad at 36, I just turned 36 a few months ago. So, being 36 and he passed away at 36, I want to be able to finish and do the things that he was not able to do. So I don't want to be at the end of my life and say, oh, well, everything I couldn't do, it was worth it because those drinks were so good. No, I'd rather be at the end of my life and say, hey, I did everything I was supposed to do. And I'm not going to miss the drinks, at all, right?
So your dad was an alcoholic. Your dad's dad was an alcoholic. Did you live in fear that would be your fate?
I didn't live in fear. I just made the choice not to partake in alcohol. I think we sometimes diminish the power of choice that we have. God has given us the ability to literally choose the life that we want. And I believe that, God has a great plan for all of our lives. And my part, the Bible says faith without works is dead. So my part in the works are to make great choices that allow me to receive the very optimal plan that God has for my life.
In the latest chapter of that walk, Devon travels the country, sharing his story and book, produced by Faith. He's also moved on from his dream job at Sony to start his own production company, Franklin Entertainment.
So you got this new production company. What can we expect?
We are still seeing it evolve. We're seeing what God has in store, and every day is a walk of faith. Because I don't know what he's going to do, but I'm open to what he is doing.
He's already landed a follow-up to the film Heaven is for Real, a movie based on Christy Beam's soon-to-be-released book, Miracles from Heaven.
And Devon is not slowing down. He's also got a new book he's written with his wife called The Wait. You can look forward to that coming out in the fall. Stay with us. We're coming right back. In this latest edition of Family Entertainment News, while the media may have focused on 50 Shades of Grey, the Christian film Old Fashioned finished in the top 20 in limited release last weekend. The movie tells the story of a man with old-fashioned ideas about courtship and how those ideas play out in a real romance. Old Fashioned pulled in more than $1 million in just over 220 theaters and finished number 15 at the box office. You can find out more about the film by going to our website. It's cbnnews.com. And that's going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. Want to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today? You can do it on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a terrific Tuesday, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.